Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this webinar on Vienna, Austria with the Good Life Abroad. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded and it will be sent to you by email tomorrow. So check your emails. Anyone who registered for this will be sent a recording. We're going to present the program in Vienna, and toward the end, we'll have time for questions and answers. And we'll be using the Q&A box in the Zoom toolbar. So please do not raise your hand or do not type into the chat box. Use the Q&A icon in the Zoom toolbar to submit your questions, and then we'll call on you to get through as many questions as we can. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm Andrew Motiwalla, the founder and CEO of The Good Life Abroad, and I'm joined with two guests today. First, I'd like to introduce Markus, our community manager in Vienna. Hi, Markus.
Hi, Andrew.
Glenn, you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your background.
Hello, everybody. My name is Markus Motiwalla. I'm born and raised right here in Vienna. Actually, I studied economics, but I didn't like it too much, so I started traveling a lot. And in one of my travels, I came to southern Thailand. And for a person from Vienna, it's a big sin if they don't have coffee. So what we did, my friend and me, we just opened up a coffee house in Koh Samui, which is in that time was a remote island in southern Thailand, which we ran for about 12 years or so.
Wow.
Later on, I married and I moved to Nuremberg, Germany. Um, Unfortunately, this marriage didn't hold forever, and so I returned back to Vienna and then starting a new career being a cruise and program director on river cruise ships, basically sailing Rhine, Main, Danube, and the Mosel, mostly with American passengers and also American companies, also Australian companies. And since last year, I'm very happy to be part of the Good Life Abroad family as being your community manager right here in Vienna.
Thank you, Marcus. And we're also joined today with Catherine Riley, who was on our Vienna program last year in 2025. Catherine, hi. Can you tell us about
Hi.
yourself?
Sure. My husband and I, Frank, were part of the September to October 2025 group. We are both retired. We're in our 70s. I would call us fairly active seniors. And we had visited Vienna briefly on a previous cruise, and we really fell in love with the city the brief time we were there. And so when we saw this opportunity to get to know it in more detail, it looked perfect. And so we signed up and spent the month in Vienna.
Wonderful. Thank you, Catherine.
Sure.
Let's dive into this a bit, but let me back up for just a second. Before we get into Vienna specifically, there might be some people on the webinar who are not really familiar with the Good Life Abroad program. So just want to explain for those briefly what the program includes overall. So first of all, the idea is to live for a month uh, like a local in your own modern apartment. And this apartment is provided by the Good Life Abroad. These are individual apartments, not hotel rooms. Um, and they're independent. So you have a kitchen, and it's not like a front desk where you can go to the reception and order more towels. You really have an apartment with a kitchen and pots and pans. And you have a community of fellow travelers who also have their apartments around Vienna, who are a part of the program. And we start the program on the same day. So it's a cohort-based experience. Everyone arrives, they move into their apartments, and then the program begins. You've met Marcus, you have the support of our local community manager. Our community manager will talk more about this in more depth, but organizes activities and events for the community and also provides support to all the community members using WhatsApp text messaging when he's not physically there in person. And that WhatsApp support is from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. In addition, we include travel medical insurance in your program fee. And for those of you who would like to maybe join a yoga studio or Pilates or a gym for wellness, our community manager can connect you to the right places in your area. So that's a brief overview of the program. Let's dive into Vienna specifically now. So why Vienna? What makes it special? I think it's one of the most beautiful cities, personally. The architecture, the grand boulevards, the history. I really enjoy history. So, like for me, as a history lover, it is fascinating, endlessly fascinating. But let's not hear from me, Catherine. What made Vienna special to you?
Well, I think if there's one word I would apply to Vienna from my own perspective, it's civilized. It's one of the most accessible cultural experiences I've ever been in. It's an urban environment, but you're surrounded by, I described in one of my Facebook posts as walking through a wedding cake. Everywhere you look up, you see magnificent architecture, historical architecture. And there's what attracted me to it was there are so many opportunities for cultural experiences like museums and concerts and um, also the food. And the other thing that we really found wonderful about Vienna that we didn't know in advance is how accessible it is to get around. And they have the best public transportation system I've ever used. And I've lived in several urban environments, and there's they don't compare to Vienna's. It was just fantastic. So those are some of the high points for us.
Great, thanks. And Marcus, I mean, you were born and raised in Vienna. I guess, what do you hope that guests discover about Vienna that's maybe below the surface, below the normal touristy things? What do you love about Vienna?
Yeah, Catherine's told a lot already about it, but I think for me the symbiosis and of the old imperial part and the new modern life that is reflected in all the way. The same with the Viennese so-called Gemütlichkeit, which you would translate into coziness, is a special way of dealing with things. It's slow paced. Doesn't mean they're lazy, but it take it all a little bit more easier, and that reflects also in the social culture, like the coffee house traditions, or you sit in a park, you chat with people, or you go to one of the famous sausage stands and have a chit chat with them. And so really dive into the culture and be a part of it, not just be a tourist making pictures, which is of course possible as well and appreciated, but really to find hidden gems like hidden wine taverns at the outskirts of the town, or we have so many, Catherine, I think you agree, we have so many restaurants and pubs and bars, I just looked it up just for my own interest. In the moment, we have about more than 7,500 catering establishments. So that says a lot for a town of 2 million people. And also to find hidden architectural gems, yeah, like somewhere outside a church on a hill, but you never expect one. And I can give you all these hints, of course, once you're here and before, of course, as well.
Great, thank you both. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I would like to kind of say with this slide is there's a lot of the famous things that Vienna is known for. These are well-known museums and buildings, but and this is things that many people may have seen if they were in Vienna, like in a cruise, and they were there for a couple of days. People say, oh, I've been to Vienna. I've seen all the main things. But the point of the Good Life Abroad is to actually live more like a local and to find these undiscovered hidden gems that are beyond this. And Catherine, maybe can you speak to your thought process? Because, like you mentioned, you had been to Vienna on a cruise, but then something got you to come back with the Good Life Abroad. And spoiler alert, Catherine loved it so much, she's going back to Vienna again. So, I mean, there's something obviously that you have discovered that is much more beyond a traditional tour and sightseeing. Can you tell us what is it that brings you back and what are you discovering?
Well, I think my husband and I both really like an urban environment. We live in the suburbs now, which they're great, but there's something really different about not relying on a car, about being able to just walk outside, hop on the U-Bahn, which is the subway system in Vienna, and in 10 minutes you're in the main tourist section downtown where the big church is on the map, Stephensplatz, or you can take a subway ride to a train station, and in a few hours you're in a town like Salzburg or Bratislava. It's a very accessible location for traveling. And I think if we go back, we'll do a little more traveling outside of the area. That's one reason we want to go back. But again, for us, it was just the enjoyment of being in an urban environment, being able to go to coffee houses and museums and concerts and the Lippes Honor Stallions and so events like that, as well as discovering some of the areas that we had never had exposure to on a really brief trip. So,
Great. Thank you. So let's talk about the apartments. That's a big question people have. Like, where do we stay? So we work with a property management company in Vienna that has multiple buildings around the city. Uh, all of them are modern, renovated apartments. They have air conditioning and heating. They have kitchens. They buildings do have an elevator. Um, and they are this sort of kind of designer apartments. They're kind of look and feel. You can get a sense of it. The apartments are different, but they're kind of the very, I would say, design forward. They put some thought and care into their design. The one important thing to note um, is that in spring of 2026, the first half of this year, we are going to be in a few of their different buildings that they have, um, this property management company, but it will change by the fall of 2026, and I'll talk more about that. But for those who are thinking about going in the first half of the year, let's say, uh, there are a few different buildings, but they're easily accessed by the public transportation that Catherine was mentioning. Markus, do you want to speak to that? Just a little bit about the apartment buildings?
Yes, I know two of those locations, to be honest, because we used them last time. Um, what I always do is I do for the people they like and they're not, so sure in the beginning, especially, we make a TGLA meeting point. And this meeting point is accessible from all these three apartments by just one streetcar. So that's easy. And then we meet there and we'd go there from there together. Or if people are really feeling like locals already, then we meet at the lunch club or activity, whatever we have planned. So I know all this, I know this Weringerstraße, I know the Weisgerberlände. Veitgasse is not far away, so this is district number 3. The other one is district number 18, beautiful districts both, and not far away from the city center. So you can make it in 15 minutes max, I think. Yeah, 15
Yeah,
maybe from Wieringer, 18. Yeah.
got it. Thank you. So now I think most people are going to probably be coming later in the year or maybe even in 2027. And we're very excited because this property management company, they have already renovated this building, but now they're in the process of doing the interior fixtures and whatnot. So we're feeling very excited about this. And we will be moving to um, one single building. This is the exterior of it, number 15. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name of the street, but you get a sense of the building, and it is very centrally located here in town, as you can see where the arrow is. And I think that'll be nice that many people enjoy being in the same building with other community members. So that will be for the second half of 2026 and beyond. Um, just wanted to clarify that for people. But maybe, Catherine, can you talk a little bit about your apartment and kind of what it was like? Some people have never stayed in a full apartment in another country.
sure. It was not in any of the buildings that are being used this year, just to clarify that. It was in the 7th district. But we really liked the apartment. It had, as you mentioned earlier, it's not a hotel. It doesn't have a concierge, but you do have an apartment manager who's a separate person from Markus. It's someone who's associated with the rental or apartment management company that you can call if there's like our microwave died, at one point, and they had it fixed the next or replaced the next day, things like that. Um, It did have a laundry facility, which is important if you're staying for a month. I can't speak to that in the buildings that you'll be using, but we had a washer dryer literally next door in the hallway and a hallway closet, so that was very convenient. Um, so, it's probably smaller than the place that most people live in their retirement, perhaps. It was, I think, 50 square meters. I can't translate that readily to square foot, but
Maybe
it was,
550, 600 square feet.
yeah, it was a one bedroom. It was a typical urban size apartment. We lived in downtown Chicago and it was almost exactly the same size as that one bedroom. Um, One bedroom, one bath, functional kitchen, two burner stove, small refrigerator. So there were some adjustments based on what a typical American flat or apartment or home might look like, but they were very, no major culture shocks anywhere.
No, I think that's great, Catherine, in that I think that's an important expectation we like to set is that, you know, these are European apartments.
Right.
And if you come from, many people in North America live in suburbs with big houses or big townhouses or whatnot. Um, it's not that these are of any sort of inferior quality. They're just a little more, everything's more compact because you're
Right.
truly living in an urban center. But I think they're quite comfortable for a month stay. And like you said, the kitchen, everything a little bit less. But let me ask you, Catherine, did you cook much? Like, what was your cooking pattern? And so how much of the kitchen come into play there?
I'm not a big cook. We tend to eat lunch out every day. That's even at home and in the States we do that. And then we kind of forage in the evening, so we may not have the same eating patterns as everybody else. But um, one thing we did like about our location, and again, I can't speak to the new locations, but we literally had a grocery store on the same block. So we tended to go grocery shopping every other day, because you are carrying things. You're not driving them home in your car in the trunk. So you do have to make some adjustments there, but it was very easy to do. So I would say I don't mind that. I kind of like being able to go to a store on the way home and just stop in and pick up, some bread and fruit and things like that, cheese.
Yeah.
So we did a lot more grocery shopping, but kind of on a 2 or 3 times a week level, we would do that and then have things at home to eat.
Not quite the Costco lifestyle.
No, 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 cars. Um, no, can't imagine.
Great. Marcus, can you tell us a little bit, yeah, about the maybe some expectations, and also if you could speak to the area or the neighborhood where the building will be going in fall
Yeah,
20.
yeah. I just wanted to come with that. That is in the sixth district. It's called Theobaldgasse. I personally was there to see the apartments with the marketing people. They've been here. And the area is about 5 minutes from where you stayed, Catherine. It's
Okay.
just on the other side of Marie-Hilfer-Straße. So it's basically the same area. And right there, there's one of our largest shopping streets we have where you get everything within a 5 minute walk. So that's
Mhm.
perfectly located. Also, you don't need long to the so-called museums quarter, which is right in the middle on that map where it says Kunsthistorische, where the art, yes, right here. There is a big museum complex, one of the largest in the world. You have modern art there. You have the big
Yeah.
famous Kunsthistorical Museum, the museum, the history of art, which is, I don't know, Catherine, you have been in the museum?
Leopold. We went
Leopold,
to
no, I mean
Leopold.
the art
Yeah.
history.
Yeah. No, not that one.
Because the art history is a museum, for example, you can spend a week in there easily because there's so much of collecting items. It's amazing. And you're already in the downtown area. So I would say in walking distance to the museums quarter, it's like 7, 8 minutes, maybe
Right.
max. And then you're already almost in downtown central Vienna. So location is perfect and everything is there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're all very excited, at least from the Good Life Abroad, about this new building being ready for us
Oh
later
yeah,
this
the
year.
places look great. They look real nice on the top floors up. I was astounded. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. That's great. I can't wait to be there myself. So that's the apartments. Now let's talk about this community and events. Um, the way the program works, I'll kind of walk you through a schedule for those who can imagine. You arrive, you're tired, you check into your apartment. We don't do too much that day. The next day, Marcus organizes an orientation. And the idea of the orientation is to kind of empower you to be able to live like a local, like take public transportation, where to get groceries, cultural norms, safety, security, sort of the basics. And then we break. And then in the evening, we have a welcome party, which is quite nice, drinks and food and bites and stuff. Um, and then in those first couple of days, Marcus gets to know each of you on the program and sits down one on one, couple or an individual, and tries to understand what is it you want to get out of your month in Vienna, and then how can he support you by giving you information or connecting you, giving you links to book things. But then we'll talk more about the community manager role a little bit later. But then we fall into a pattern. We have a tradition at the Good Life Abroad called the Tuesday Lunch Club. And the Tuesday Lunch Club is, as the name implies, every Tuesday we meet for lunch in a different place. And we do this in all of our cities. And the idea there is one, to learn about the culture through its food, two, to see a part of the city maybe that you would not have visited, or a restaurant that you might not have gone to on your own, something local. And in some of our cities, I'm not sure about Vienna, we even have lunch outside of the city and we go on the local public transportation to some places outside of town. And that's Tuesdays. Wednesday, we do some kind of cultural activity. Um, and we can talk more about specifically what that is in Vienna in a second. And then Thursdays, we have our happy to be 55 and older hour, or happy hour. And again, it's more than just drinks. It's a way to learn about the culture through its drink, and also time to get together with your community and socialize with others, get to know people. But then it's important to note Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we don't have scheduled activities, and people
Right.
are off kind of exploring and doing things. But what's beautiful about the Tuesday Lunch Club is that's the time where the community gets together again after not seeing each other and kind of, hey, what have you been up to? What did you do? What did you discover? And so I really like that tradition. Um, Marcus, I'll let you talk about a little bit some of the things that they're going to do specifically in Vienna. And then Catherine, after Marcus, I'd love to hear some of your favorite activities and events.
Yeah, well, as it's written already here, and I was very happy that worked out, we have a schnitzel cooking class in a very, very good restaurant, I think. I think everybody really enjoyed it. It was lucky wise through a friend of mine, I got the connection because I didn't think it was possible to do it there. But I think they made a great job there, and they were really better than I expected, to be honest, because I was thinking, well, maybe they just, they do it for us, but they were really enthusiastic, and everybody from the community really were doing their own schnitzels. And after them, we, of course, had them for our lunch. And also, we had a private wine tasting from a schoolmate of mine who is a wine master. So we went basically to a more or less private home with a private cellar, wine cellar, and we tasted some special Austrian wines there. Also, what we had because the city is also famous for the waltz, the Viennese waltz. We had a waltz lesson on one of the Wednesdays, so people had an hour to really learn with professionals how to really dance the Viennese waltz. Then we had some excursion to the Vienna woods one day, and we also went to Schönbrunn Gardens. Also, we went as a third excursion, we went to the old amusement park, the Vienna Prater, where you find the oldest still existing Ferris wheel, which is one of the highlights in Vienna. And due to the fact part of my family comes from the Prater dynasties, I could give them a little inside information about this quite funny old school amusement park.
That's great. Catherine, tell us about your experiences.
Yeah, well, everything that Marcus mentioned was just, and Marcus has great connections in Vienna. I mean, he got us into the, what is it, Der Schwarzenkammel? Yeah,
Yep.
the cooking class, which is a Michelin rated restaurant. I would probably never have gotten in there myself. That was wonderful. All of those things that he mentioned, some things we did on our own that I really liked. We did the Lippes honors. We're former horse owners, so we kind of had a special desire to do that. We did several theater experiences, some concerts. So those were things that we did on our own, but all of the group activities were very well organized and there was such a wide variety, everything from a cooking class, a waltz lesson, to the Viennese woods. It was, a real smorgasbord, if I can mix cultures there a little bit. So it was a very good selection, and Marcus was very organized and, did a good job of prearranging everything so that it ran smoothly.
Yeah,
Very
I think
good.
the thing I like, I love about our programs is our community managers, we give them a great deal of freedom. And
Mhm.
because of that, they can use their own personal connections to come up with things you could not even plan, you couldn't even imagine. And I mean, having this cooking class at a Michelin-starred restaurant with a celebrity chef is
Yeah.
like, you couldn't even, I couldn't even dream that up. So I think it's amazing. And you can see how much Marcus loves his city when he shares these things and the work he goes through to organize his kind of
Yeah.
experiences. So. That's great. Now we keep talking about the word community, community manager. So what do we exactly mean? Well, as I mentioned, it's a cohort-based experience where people arrive on the same day. But before you even arrive, we do a Zoom call where you get to kind of see, put a name and a face together with other people in the group. Marcus is on there. And we sort of kind of talk about some pre-departure logistics. And then when everyone arrives, we are also connected on WhatsApp. Now, WhatsApp, for those who don't know, is a text messaging application that is not very popular in the United States, but is everywhere in Europe and in many countries around the world. And they have a feature called a community feature. And you can see the screenshot. That happens to be from Florence, Italy. Um, but there's an announcement channel, and that's where the community manager sends announcements to the group with a link. Tomorrow, meet here, 10 a.m. Here's a link to Google Maps or suggestions for things to do over the weekend. Oh, interesting events that are happening in town, etc. What's really fun is also these groups that you can see below. And the groups are things that our travelers, our community members use to connect with each other. And as you can see in this example, we have people, solo travelers who made a group for themselves, people who are into fitness, who want to work out together, go for a run. I've seen book clubs, I've seen potlucks, I've seen weekend getaways organized through these groups. Every group of people, every group of travelers uses this in a slightly different way. But what happens is while we have our kind of scheduled activities for the month that Marcus organizes, the community themselves connect and things start popping off and the community takes on a life of its own. And suddenly they're doing things together or sharing tips to each other of like great restaurants or interesting things to do. And so we find that the month, even though it's a month, time tends to go very fast because your month gets full of things to do. So I would love to hear from you, Catherine, about how your community interacted. Actually, real quick, before I get into that, just a few factual things about the community size. So on average, our groups are about 15. Though sometimes it's smaller, it's like 10, 9. We don't go to 24 anymore. We kind of max out at 20. Our average age, averages, are funny because they're just like a point in the middle. So you could have people on other ends of this. Um, it's about 67 and a half. About a third, an average, is a third solo travelers, primarily from the US, some from Canada, and the random other here once in a while, like a Brit or Australian who shows up. And the thing that bonds people together, or the kind of common thread, is that they do love cultural immersion. For them to do a month in one place, this is a unique type of traveler who's actually been around the block a few times and wants to go a little bit deeper. So I'll stop now. And Catherine, if you could talk about community and what it meant for your experience.
Well, you mentioned the WhatsApp, and what you said is true. We have everything from Marcus being able to speak to the group. One thing that I really appreciated, I'm kind of neurotic about planning things in advance, and I like things to be organized. I like to know what I'm doing when I get up in the morning and what's happening the next couple of days. And one thing he was really good about was sending out a little reminder and a survey, like, will you become, well, this went to the group. It said, well, will you be coming to this activity? And you could check yes or no, because sometimes you have a plan that might conflict with an activity. You've got tickets to something or something like that. And he was very clear about communicating on WhatsApp as to where we would be meeting, what time, if we were going to a happy hour, what's included in the happy hour, 2 drinks and snacks, something like that. So I really appreciate it as an organizing tool that everybody could use. And then, as you mentioned, some of the travelers who were traveling not as a couple, they tended to kind of form another subgroup that sometimes did things on their own on the weekends or maybe went out to lunch together. And a third thing that the WhatsApp enabled was, as you said, when somebody found a good activity or a restaurant they really liked, they would post it to the group and say, hey, if you're looking for a good doner kebab, try this place. Or if you're looking for a good wine bar, we found one, we really liked it. So those were all good things for that. I really liked the idea of having kind of a, I don't know, I was traveling with my husband, so I wasn't a solo traveler, but we liked having time to ourselves. That was important to us to be able to do some things independently, but also to have kind of a core of English speaking people that we could get together with, and also Marcus to ask questions of and kind of learn from each other. So for us, it was a really good mix of community and independent travel. I don't think we'd want to do just independent travel for a whole month, maybe in one place, but we liked having that option of having the community there. So it was a good blend, I think.
And Catherine, did you find that like sometimes you would go out with other people in the community to kind of like a concert or like a dinner? Did you just kind of meet up spontaneously ever?
Um, Occasionally, did lunch with the ladies one day, so that was something that I did, more spontaneously. I think, and for me, that tended to happen more, or I observed it more with some of the people that were traveling, um, not as part of a married couple,
Hmm.
but that was happened to be the majority of the group in our cases. There were only 2 married couples, I think, on the in the cohort, and so there was a lot of you know mixing and mingling among the other travelers as well.
Got it.
So,
Got it. Marcus, anything you want to speak to with regard to community?
Yeah, well, like Catherine said, I found out like we had three ladies staying in the one apartment which you showed before in the Straße. And as they all started their first names with a D, they were called the three Ds. And they invited people over to come to their
yeah.
apartment. So there was a big mingling. And to be honest, as you can see also on the screen, there's this member to member group.
Mhm.
And I personally did not join this group because I thought this is their private group and
Yeah.
that's their thing. If they want, I do all the announcement. If they want to contact me, of course, every time. But this should be their, so to say, area where to communicate. And I know they had some good communications there.
Mhm.
That's great. Great. And one thing, Catherine, you mentioned is where Marcus would ask, are you coming or not coming to an event? And one thing I would mention is everything is optional. It's not
Right.
a tour where you're like, come on, you have to go here, you have to go there. It truly, what we try to do is strike that balance, exactly what you said, Catherine, of it's community as much as you want, and also is independent to
Mhm.
explore as you want. And different people have different levels. Some
Right.
people participate in everything, and some people miss things here and there because they're trying to go off and explore other things that they personally are interested in. So I think that's good. Well, here we go. We have Marcus in the daylight. As you can see in Vienna, it's evening, so the light is starting to go down. But this is a nice sunny shot of Marcus. And the community manager and role in general in all of the Good Life Abroad destinations, I think is one of the things that makes our program truly special is the people we have on the ground who are there to support you. And really, the community manager wears different hats, right? They very logistical, as you've heard, like Marcus organizing events and activities, but is also kind of a cultural guide to kind of explain what's happening. And is also there as a supporting role, as we mentioned, available by WhatsApp Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 for recommendations. I want to go away for the weekend to travel somewhere. How do I do it? What do you recommend? Um, and so, really, what I love about the community manager is that they get to know you as an individual and can then recommend things that you specifically would like. And what I mean by that is this is in contrast to, for example, going on to social media or TripAdvisor saying, what's the best this in a city? Best for who? Best for some random people on the internet? I mean, I'm unique. I think we're all unique people. And so Marcus, in this case, or all of our community managers, they get to know you and say, Andrew, no, you really like, this kind of thing. I've got just the right idea for you specifically that you're going to like. So don't follow, don't have to follow what they're writing all over the internet. And I think to me, that's one of the things I love most about this. Catherine, I'll let you kind of speak. Can you talk about what Marcus meant for your experience in Vienna?
Well, I guess there were several things. The first thing I've already mentioned is he was kind of the overall organizer, reminder, um, herding the cats. He was very organized about having, not only are you coming to this event, but will you be going directly to the restaurant or will you meet with the group and then we'll all travel together, from a certain place. So he always gave us that option of traveling together to the meeting point or going there and meeting the rest of the group on our own. So that was very good. He did meet with, as you mentioned, he meets with everyone early in your stay for a one-on-one meeting, and you have ideas about maybe where you want to go or what you want to do on your own time. And he can give you recommendations like, should you take a train here? How do you get tickets to this? And so forth and so on. He doesn't do those things for you, but he tells you how to kind of navigate the system. So he's not a concierge, but he's more of an advisory capacity, if I could put it that way. So yeah, and he was also very obviously, since this is most of the service people or retail people in Vienna do speak English much better than most of us probably speak German. But obviously, if he's taking a group of 10 people to a restaurant, he needs to be able to talk to the waiter and the manager in German. Okay, so he was our translator and go between to facilitate things at those places for us. So I would say, he's a very kind and organized person, and um, you know, I I guess the best evidence of that is we're thinking about coming back. So
Marcus, I don't know. I don't think you want to debate her on those points. I think you accept the compliment, but is there
No,
anything you would like to
I want to
add?
thank you very much. It's a big honor, and for me, the most important is that you all have a good time, and that's
yeah,
what I'm here for. And
yeah,
I think you enjoyed it, and I'm happy to hear that. Yeah,
yeah.
makes me proud and happy. Thank you.
Great. Great. So, in general, sort of pulling out the Good Life Abroad experience is a way for you to live however you want to live in these cities to get whatever you want out of it. And this is, I think, very important, an underrated idea is that I think the people who have the best experience, they have an idea what they want to get out of the whole experience. For example, we had a gentleman, a couple actually, who went to Florence and he knew he loved art. He had actually taken an art history course on Renaissance art before he went. And for him, every day was about discovering new art. Um, I know some people are real history buffs and they want to go see important historical locations. And for them, that city takes on a new life because they have some knowledge. We have other people who go on our program and they want to learn the local language. Perhaps they took German in college and they would like to kind of brush it off and go back. So whenever I think that's what's great about our program is I think of it as a canvas, a blank canvas, and we're just providing some support and some community. Um, but really, it's the canvas is there for you to paint however you like, and whether it's as simple as sitting in a coffee house and reading a book and watching life go by, or there's something more intentional that you want to do. It's these are canvases, and Vienna is a beautiful canvas to live your life. And I like what you're saying, Catherine, too, because just living in the heart of a city, right, is a nice experience, and not having to drive and not going to Costco to load up the car, but getting the fresh produce,
Yeah,
that's fresh from that day. I think that's really what it's about. It's about living in a place versus just touring in a place. And you got to think about what you want your life to look like. And Marcus is there to help you do that. Um, so with that, I kind of want to open it up to a little bit more free form. Uh, Catherine, what are some things, we've said a lot of things, and you said a really nice things about Marcus, about the program. Obviously, you liked it. You're thinking about
yeah.
going back. But, were there challenges or things that you didn't like, or maybe you were fine for you, but you would say, hey, this might not be for everyone, and I want people to think about
Sure.
whether this is right for you, some kind of insider input you might have.
Sure. Well, I would say one thing that's kind of deceptive is there is a lot of walking involved. And so uh, that may seem pretty obvious, but I clocked about, everybody's got a walking app now, tells you your steps and so forth. And I was clocking about 3 or 4 miles a day, which isn't a lot, but for some people, it might be. My husband would go out and walk a little more, maybe 4 to 5 miles a day. Even though you're using public transportation or mass transit a lot, even getting to the subway station is, might be a third of a mile. And then once you get off the subway station, maybe another third of a mile to where you're going. So it all adds up. So um, I would say mobility is pretty important, or being able to walk several miles a day,
Yeah.
or at least is kind of a bare minimum, I would say, to participate fully in all of the activities. So that would be one caveat.
Did you run into, speaking of mobility, did you run into any issues with like stairs? Because some of these buildings are very old that might not have elevators or lifts.
Yeah. The only issues I can remember, and I am sensitive to that because being in my 70s, I don't have the world's best knees. They're still my own knees at this point, but they need a little help sometimes. There were a couple of subway stations, like the Rathaus, I think. In one direction, I had to walk 2 flights of stairs to get up, and it was a lot for me. I mean, they were big flights, not just, inside building flights. Um, so there were a couple of days when I did a little more walking than maybe I should was prepared to do,
Mhm.
but I didn't really pay much attention to things like accessibility in the technical sense of maybe someone who's using a cane or can't navigate stairs at all. So my impression is most of the subway stations do have elevator options, but you may have to walk to get to them. And then once you're on the subway, a lot of times you may have to stand. They can get pretty crowded, although usually people are very good about offering older passengers a seat. So I would just, be realistic about your abilities to walk around and so forth.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's really good
the
advice.
language I was apprehensive about, but it really wasn't a problem. I made an effort to pick up a little German, like what I call restaurant German. But as I said, most of the people who interface with the public in Vienna do have English in my experience. I think maybe once you get out into smaller areas, maybe not so much, but it's certainly in the major part of Vienna where most of us would be spending most of our time. That's not a problem. Made constant use of Google Maps and Google Translate. Google Translate is wonderful. Um, One thing I didn't anticipate was the grocery shopping, but you just take out your Google Translate, hold it up to the ingredients and, or the label, and it instantly translates for you in German. So that, I mean, into English. So that was really, really helpful. And I got a lot of use out of that. Trying to think what else.
Well, I
Um,
want to just double click on what you said, which I think is also really good. We talk about accessibility and walking, which is
yeah,
great, but also our program does sort of require you to have to be able to use certain apps and technology. And our staff during the pre-departure process can support you and teach you. I think in orientation, if you have trouble, Marcus can even kind of help explain WhatsApp to you and how it
Mhm.
works. But
Yeah, I had
WhatsApp,
never used it, but it was a quick learning curve.
yeah,
Yeah.
these are quick things, but like WhatsApp is a necessity for our program. Google Maps is a necessity, and Google Translate is extremely handy. So I think we just like to set the expectations. Like
Right.
there's some onus on you to learn these apps if you don't already know them.
Yeah.
Marcus, anything you want to add in general about expectation setting for the program?
Well, come here and find out.
I
No, I
love it.
think I try to prepare it as good as possible. And as you know, there is on the homepage of the Good Life Abroad, there is a community manager recommendations, which were done brand new. So I overworked it and I made it more complex than it was before. So there you find a lot of helpful tips. Like, for example, what you should book before you come, like for the Vienna State Opera or maybe a Lipizzaner horse show because they are
Right.
sold out quite fast. Or for example, if you want to go to Bratislava in summertime or from April on, you can go by a speedboat from Vienna, which has very small capacity. So you should book that before you go on the trip. And I wrote that all in so you know, or the Vienna Boys Choir, for example, their concerts are sold out extremely fast, like the State Opera. So I would do that as soon as I know I'm coming there, I'm coming to Vienna, I'm going there, and I want to see that, then book it immediately to be on the safe side.
Yeah, that's great. And I just want to clarify for everyone what Marcus is referring to is now once you book with a Good Life Abroad, this is something we've been building out over time, is we have this something called your trip portal. So now that you're logged into sort of your account and you can see information about your program, but now we're actually starting to build out in the recent months more city-specific information, recommendations. All this information that Marcus is referring to will be in your trip portal you can access when you book that. And then many people have a question like, okay, Marcus is saying we should book some things in advance, but how do we know the schedule to be able to do that booking? Um, uh, there is a pretty standard schedule that goes for all of our programs. Um, and we'll give you, I don't know exactly at what point we give you the detailed schedule, but it's pretty straightforward because we don't do activities Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
Mhm.
Um, Tuesdays is lunchtime, middle of the day. Wednesdays, the middle of the day, usually, and Thursdays just the happy hour in the afternoon, early evening. So
Mhm.
it's very easy to know, okay, well, Fridays and Mondays I have free and the
Right.
weekends are free. So I can plan certain big things well in advance.
Right.
You know. Weather, if you look at the dates of our Vienna programs, we tend to focus on the shoulder seasons where it's not too hot and not too cold. Um, Although we do have a special program in November this year for the Christmas markets, which is going to be very exciting. I'll talk about that in a second. Getaways, you heard Catherine talk about getaways, and Markus mentioned Bratislava. It's, I would say, a good number of people in all of our programs, probably maybe third or half of our group goes out of town on the weekends to try out other things. I don't know, it probably varies from group to group specifically, but Vienna's got a great location and it's very easy with the train system to get to other places in the area. Um, so a few expectations on my end. I want to make very clear to everyone, this is not a tour. There's no bus that picks you up and takes you somewhere, like, and then packs your day. And that's why people come to us. But because of that, it does require a lot more walking and taking public transport. Exactly what Catherine says. We say as a rule of thumb, in all of our programs, you should be able to walk at least 2 miles a day on uneven surfaces, and you should be able to walk up 2 flights of stairs. Now, in many buildings, there are elevators, but a lot of the cities where we are operating have very historical buildings, and there's stairs. And so we'd like to set that expectation. Now, some cities, such as Lisbon, there's probably even more of a physical requirement because it's such a hilly city with like big steep hills, and that we like to set expectations because it's not a tour and we're not providing transportation. That you may want to, think twice and think about your own abilities and say, realistically, what can I do? And also things like just move a little less quickly in different places, the more relaxed pace of life. And some people say, I want to see more, I want to pack more in, well, then I say, then a tour might be more your thing, right? This is more about living in a place and kind of soaking up the life versus like packing a lot in. People ask us about having visitors. Yes, you may have visitors stay in your apartment, but we ask that they do not participate in the scheduled community activities because we're trying to preserve a sense of community amongst the people. However, there's also lots of ad hoc, informal things that the community gets up to, and your visitors are welcome to join into those things, of course. Um, as I mentioned, we're doing a special 2-week program for solo travelers in Vienna to experience the Christmas markets. We just wanted to try something new. We know that there's a lot of solo travelers, and they specifically ask, hey, can we try this? And we put this out there. Maybe in the future we open up to couples as well, but this was just something. We had a group of solo travelers come to us asking for this, and we decided to give it a shot. It's a new thing. It's a special for this year, and it should be fun. And during those periods of time that you see, there's more Christmas markets opening up each week. It's sort of an interesting time. I don't know, Markus, if you want to add anything about Christmas markets in general.
Yeah, well, Christmas markets are extremely popular here. This year, or the past year till the beginning of this year, we had 14 official Christmas markets. Two of them are very, very big ones. The one in front of the town hall and the one in front of Schönbrunn Castle or Palace. These are quite big markets with a lot of people and a lot of attractions. And people like that. They like to have their mulled wines. They like to, join together. It's not all about buying, it's just tasting and feeling the atmosphere. Depending, of course, on the weather, maybe there's a little snow, then it looks more Christmas-like. Cannot guarantee the snow, but this year we had some. And it's this festivity atmosphere together with the smell of mulled wine, of sausages. You see the children eyes, how they go big on this little presents they sell there, or toys or whatever. And it's a tradition for us to, just stand together with either a punch or whatever you prefer to drink and just enjoy the atmosphere of it. And the one of, for example, in front of the town hall has even an ice skating area. So you can skate, you can rent some skaters there, you can skate through the park to the town hall park, and everything is illuminated. People love it, and I think, yeah, I think you're gonna love it as well.
It's
And
beautiful.
I'm
Thank
looking
you, Markus.
forward.
So you've been listening to this webinar. I'm going to move quickly because we're starting to run short on time here. But you think, okay, this sounds good. What do I do? What's the next step? Well, you can go to our website, click Book Now, and then you can have a filter and you can select Vienna or whatever city you're interested in. And then you can select the apartment size and the dates, and you put down a $495 deposit per person. Um, and our payment schedule has changed a little bit from last year. It used to be $395, it's now $495 to hold your spot. 300 days before your program, we ask for 50%, and then 150 days before you go, the other 50%. If you book shorter time out, there's a different schedule. Our cancellation policy, you can see here on the right. The deposit, if you cancel, is converts into credit for a future program. We understand sometimes things happen in life, and we do not include trip cancellation insurance. Some people get confused. We include travel medical insurance. Something happens, but if you are worried that you may have to cancel your trip once you get to the period where it's non-refundable, there's something out there called trip cancellation insurance. And one of the features some of them have is called cancel for any reason. So you can cancel even at the last minute for whatever reason, and they will reimburse you the program fee. So this is something I encourage people to consider because life happens, and many of us as we get older have aging parents, and we've got to prepare for the unexpected. Okay, we'll move to Q&A. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to go quickly. If you have questions, please use the Q&A icon in Zoom, and we will look through some of these questions. So I'm going to go pretty quickly, and I'll just call on Catherine or Markus or whatever makes more sense for the question. And we'll try to get through as many of these as we can. Question. I'm a big music fan. I know Vienna is famous for classical music, and I fully expect to take advantage of those wonderful concerts. But is there a jazz scene as well? I love jazz. Markus, anything?
There is a jazz scene as well. It's not a huge one, but which kind of jazz would be my first question? As my dad is a clarinetist and he plays jazz, and tonight he's again in a jazz pub. So there is, but yeah,
Well, there you go. That's a great answer.
there is one.
Markus's dad is literally a jazz musician, and so you have all the information you want about jazz
He's
there.
86 and still playing.
That's wonderful. I'm a youngish new retiree, 62. My wife is still working. Can she work remotely from Vienna? I assume she would have great internet. Are there within the apartment and or nearby work cafes or workspaces? I'll answer about this kind of generally. We do have people on all of our programs who still work full-time or part-time. All of the apartments across all of our programs do have high-speed internet. Um, and the only thing to note is that if you have to work synchronously with US hours, that tends to be in the evenings and nights. Myself, I often work while I'm in Europe. And so maybe not drinking too much wine at dinner if you have to get back into work calls.
Or
But Markus, you want to speak to that at all? People work from cafes as well, or
Uh, well, most people have them in their contract. They have them on their mobiles or on their tablets. We
yeah.
still might have some internet cafes, but they're dying out somehow because everybody has his own devices with their own. But there are in a lot of places, of course, there are Wi-Fi's in a coffee house, or example, they probably all have, a lot of them have Wi-Fi's already.
So people
You
do work
just,
from a coffee house.
yes,
Uh,
you just ask the waiter for the password, or they even have
yeah.
it written somewhere, but that's quite popular already, yes.
Got it. Got it. Question, will the community events be similar for the Christmas market session? I think the most important thing to mention is the Christmas market special sessions are 2-week programs. So they'll be reduced in time. So we'd still do our Tuesday lunch club. We'll still do a Wednesday cultural activity and a Thursday happy hour, but there will only be 2 weeks of them. So certain things will obviously not be there because it's not the full 4 weeks. But we will let you know in the pre-departure process what your exact schedule. You will know more than a month in advance exactly what is happening on each day of the program. Uh, will we be able to check into our apartments before the usual time, 3 p.m.? That I'm not 100% sure on. I think that's going to be a better question for your program coordinator. Once you book your program with us, you are assigned a program coordinator. And in the case of Vienna, it's a woman named Melissa. She manages everyone going to Vienna, and she also has some interface with the property management. She could get the exact check-in times for the apartments, and also whether there's any flexibility. But typically, the check-in is in the afternoon in most of our buildings. Um, Moving right along, I was in the program in Paris and negotiated the French language. Any language issues? People speak English? Okay. I think Catherine spoke to this a bit. So, and this question was put in a while ago. So let me kind of go past that. Suggestion for clothing. Do you need a dress suit or a sport jacket? What about ties or t-shirts and shorts and dress code? Maybe Marcus, you want to speak to that? And Catherine, any thoughts on how you pack?
In general, I would recommend to always go in with layers because, especially for example, April, you cannot really predict the weather. It can be still cool, it can be still quite warm already. Coming up to ties, it depends on you. Not even in the state opera you have to wear one, but a lot of people still do. So if you want to go or you want to dinner more high-end Michelin, you still can use a tie, but it is not necessary. So it's not really
Maybe a sport jacket and a nice shirt is recommended.
definitely okay. Yes.
Catherine, you want to speak to dress and maybe also some of your packing
Yeah,
tips?
I would say unless you're going to the opera, if you do what I would call country club casual or business casual, you're fine.
Okay, great. Can you cycle easily around Vienna? Marcus, cycling?
Yes, you can. We have a lot of bicycle trails nowadays. You can also rent bikes, and I found also a company they even rent electric bikes for a quite reasonable price for a month. So
And are there bike lanes in the streets?
there are bike lanes most of the time, not everywhere. They're still expanding it and expanding it. This is still a ongoing story of what's more important to have a car or a bike. But more and more bikes are up. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not leisurely biking though. It's
Yeah, and it's not like go for a nice stroll. It's
no.
like we're going somewhere.
No, it is traffic. It's a
They're
big
on a
town.
mission.
You're on a mission because it's a big town. Yes.
Yeah, it's not Amsterdam, but it's not,
No.
a recreational trail either.
Yeah,
So,
good point there. What are the temperatures like in September, October? I think Marcus, you want to take that one?
Well, it's the same about we saw on this graphics. September is also unpredictable, can be super nice, can be still hot up to 90s maybe, but can be also 75. So
Climate is
October will
getting
get a little
harder and
bit
harder to
cooler.
predict these days.
It's exactly true. You cannot really say how it's gonna be, but Catherine, we had quite nice weather in September,
yeah,
right?
we were there from September 7th to October 7th, I think were the dates. The first 2 weeks were summer, the second 2 weeks were fall. I think during
Hmm.
the whole month we had 2 days of rain and that
Hmm.
was it. So, our apartment did not have air conditioning, but it did have cross ventilation, and we were fine during the first 2 weeks. So, the weather was actually very good during those periods. Didn't need
Yeah.
anything more than a rain jacket.
Is Uber available and plentiful?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's available. We also have other companies. You will see them also in my recommendations, like Bolt, but
Hmm.
Uber, a lot of people
Sure.
use Uber. It's normally cheaper here than taxis.
Got it. Um, Marcus, can you help me identify a gym near my apartment that I am able to join for just 1 month?
Yeah, that is a tricky question. First, I have to know where the apartment is. The last time I tried it, it was really difficult to get a 1 month membership. Especially they also most of them ask for to have the official residence in Austria,
Mm.
and they only want to sell 1 to 2 year memberships. But if I know where the apartment is, I will try the best to find one for you. Somehow, I hope we can make it. Yeah, but I cannot promise it. As I said, my experience was it was not so easy.
Dan, who asked that question, my recommendation, what I do when I travel, because I like to go to the gym, I use an app called Class Pass. Class
Okay.
Pass. And they have it's literally meant for people who show up in different cities and the different gyms. This one app can get you into all these different gyms. And these apps
Very
or these
nice.
gyms sign up to be part of this because for them it's a way to make extra money. And so I highly suggest that people check out classpass.com. Marcus, would you have information about the ballet?
The what?
A ballet.
Ballet. Yeah, well, the ballet will be probably then held in the State Opera. There are always several ballets. So I recommend that you look up the program from the State Opera.
Okay, great. How can we tell if a session is guaranteed to run before purchasing an additional insurance? That's a very good question. We will guarantee to run a program or not at the latest about 6 months before the start date of the program. Um, if we know it's guaranteed to run more, well in advance of that, we will then guarantee it to run, and your program coordinator will inform you. So you would still have plenty of time to buy the trip cancellation insurance from that 6 month period. You can buy that trip cancellation insurance, I think, all the way up into uh, I don't want to misquote, but I think until like 2 or 3 months prior to the start date of the program. Um, okay, we were really over time, so I'm going to go quickly about costs. The cost is of the program. It would go to the website, click Book Now, select Vienna, and then you can see all the different configurations. It depends on how many bedrooms in your apartment, how many people are there. Is it one person? Is it two people? Is it two couples sharing a two-bedroom, etc.? So go to the website for that. What is the cost of public transportation? Marcus, you want to speak to how does public transit? Do you buy a month pass or do
Yes,
you pay
yes.
for
I
each
would
trip?
recommend, and that's what everybody did, and it's the best version. It's a little different to last year, but it's still extremely reasonable because you pay for a month 65 euro and 20 cent. That's valid for 31 days from your first day on you're here. So that's for the whole month. So that's 2 euro and 10 cent a day for all subways, buses, streetcars. And let me tell you also on weekends, Friday, Saturday night, subways and some night buses run all night, so 24 hours, which is a great new thing since some years. But with 65 euro, you're done.
Great, thank you. Is airfare included? No, airfare is not included in your program fee. Here's a good one. What would be like an estimated budget that one should think about for food, groceries, dining out? I would say first, it completely depends on if you're someone who wants to go to Michelin-starred restaurants, and if you want to take guided tours of places. I mean, that can go completely out there. But let me ask you, Catherine, kind of how did you think about
Yeah,
just day-to-day living?
I actually costed this out today. And
Okay,
because I keep a spreadsheet. We spent an average of $18. This is dollars, not euros. We spent an average of $18 a day on groceries. But again, I don't cook a lot, so factor that in. And we spent an average of $30 a day eating out, mostly lunch. And then add into that, we spent about maybe $2,800 total on just day-to-day expenses, but
for two people.
that included some tickets, that we hadn't pre-purchased before going on the trip. So it included some other expenses other than eating out and groceries. So about 3,000 a month, maybe $100 a day. Look at it that
Got it.
way.
That's
Got
a
it.
good
Okay,
Getting
number.
great.
around money. But again, as you say, if you eat higher on the hog, factor that accordingly.
Yeah. If we have our own travel health insurance, is that refundable? No, it's not refundable. That's just, we have a blanket policy. It's a larger thing that we have for the company and for all of our travelers. So that just included whether you want it or not. Um, will the new apartments have a washer dryer inside each apartment? Will TGLA be sharing videos of the apartments? Marcus, I know they were still finishing the interior of the new building. Do you know if they would have washer and dryer or just washer?
I really cannot say because there was nothing in there. from the
No.
other apartments, I know from the same company they have it.
Yeah. So this company and other buildings do have washer and dryer. I see no reason why they wouldn't have it in this
That's what I
building.
assume. Yeah.
But we will provide you details of your apartment. Um, like 4 or 5 months before you go, you'll get photos and whatnot. I'm assuming most people are going to be booking for the second half of this year, where we'll be in that new building, and we'll get as much information as we can from the property management company, including videos if possible. Um, Okay, we're well over time, so I'm sorry we're not going to be able to get to all of the questions that they keep coming in. Um, uh, One person asked, "Is there a hotel near the new building?" Yes, I think that new building is in the center of things, and there's probably many hotels in that area. Is non-smoking or people smoking? I think at this point in Vienna, it's non-smoking indoors, correct? Or they're
Correct.
still smoking indoors?
No.
No. Okay. Uh, Maybe this is good for both either of you. If I have an electric chair, could I do this program? Like an electric wheelchair? Would they? I think that might be a little tricky.
Yeah, there's so many cobblestones, for example.
The
That
cobblestones. Yeah.
cobblestones, stairs may be also tricky. Huh?
Okay. All right. Okay. First of all, we're not going to get to, if you have other questions, you can always contact our office by email, info@thegoodlifeabroad.com. Thank you all for attending. Thank you, Catherine and Marcus. I know we've gone well over your time, and I know it's evening for you, Marcus. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much, both of you. Any parting words from either of you before we end this?
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you for all the attention. I hope to see you in person sooner or later. Thank you, Andrew. And also, Catherine, it was great to see you again and say hello at home.
okay,
And
thank
I hope
you.
to see you again one day. Huh?
Same here.
Auf Wiener Schnitzel.
Yeah, auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you,
Thank you.
Marcus. Thank
Okay.
you, everyone, for coming. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.